We're starting to see the market shift and things are getting exciting. However, many of you are still sitting on the sidelines waiting for, I think, either maybe a pigeon carrier to come and tell you today's the day to buy a house, or maybe you're waiting for some epiphany to get you off the fence. But I think if you've been on the sidelines and if you haven't talked to a realtor or a lender to see what's out there in the market that you can qualify for, I think you're doing yourself a disservice, because you're making a decision on the market simply based on what the media and what your friends and family are telling you. In this video, I'm going to cover a few things where I'm seeing clients make the mistake on waiting versus having a conversation and seeing exactly where you stand today, just to get a game plan put together so you can buy a house in the future. And if this is the first time that you're checking out my channel, my name is Seanu Uyehara. I'm a branch manager with Loan Depot based in Las Vegas, Nevada, helping you finance your homes all across the country. We help first-time home buyers, seasoned investors, and homeowners learn how to get their mortgage right. And if you ever need a second opinion, you can send me an email. My team and I will put together a free total cost analysis for you to make sure that you're getting the best mortgage strategy out there. I do these videos because I want you, the future home buyer or the homeowner, to understand the bigger picture of the real estate market. There's so many times I'm having conversations, especially lately, with new buyers, and they're unsure of what to do. And I don't blame them. You're getting hit with things from social media. You're getting hit with things on the news. It's nonstop. And most of it is doom and gloom. They're telling you the market's going to crash. They're telling you that interest rates are up. They're telling you that inflation's up. All of these things keep getting fed to your brain. And half the time, some of you don't even understand what it is. I had a conversation the other day with a client, and she had made the comment that, well, I know they're going to increase rates again next month. And I said, well, what rate are you referring to? And she said, mortgage rates. I said, no, that's not the case. The Fed is going to meet again in December, but they're not raising mortgage rates. They're raising the Fed funds rate. So I think a lot of times when we hear all these terms and definitions, we just take it for face value and we regurgitate that either to a real estate agent or to a loan officer as to why you're not ready to buy, when you really don't even understand what you're regurgitating. So I think the first thing we have to do is truly understand what is going on in the marketplace right now. And if we don't know what that is, then how are you as a buyer making the right decision when you don't truly know what the right decision is? It's almost like the definition of insanity. You're doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So I think we have to really boil down to its simplest form right now, which in my opinion is understanding where you stand as a future home buyer. Now, how do you do that? You have to talk to a lender or talk to a real estate agent just to see what's going on in the marketplace. Forget what CNN or Fox News tells you about real estate. Talk to a local expert. Ask them how many months of supply are on the market. And why is that important to you? Because you want to know that if you're under 6 months of supply, it's technically a seller's market. If it's more than 6 months, it's a buyer's market if you want to look at it in a technical definition. However, ask the agent, what are you seeing in the marketplace? Show me some statistics from your local real estate board. They can give you all that information to show you how many homes have been sold, how many homes are listed, how many homes are in contract, how many homes fell out and went back on the market. They can pull all of this data to give you that information, because again, real estate is very localized, because what we see here in Las Vegas is going to be different from Houston, Texas, from Memphis, Tennessee, from Miami, Florida, from New York. It's going to be different. So you have to make sure that if you're relocating, find yourself a good local real estate agent who can answer all those questions that I just gave you. And if you don't know how to find one, you can always send me an email and I can connect you with somebody locally here in Las Vegas that can get you all of this information. And another good thing by asking a realtor that is, if they can't give you that info, then that tells you how good of a realtor they are. And I would fire them immediately. So you're going to find out someone who truly understands the market, who knows the mechanics, who knows what's going on to answer those questions. Now, on the financing side, this is another key piece to deciding, should I buy or should I not buy? Because you may make the decision based on what you think you might qualify for, which in reality could be totally false. I've had so many clients in my career that said my credit is not good or my credit sucks, and I pull their score and they've got a 650 or they have a 680 credit score and they can buy a house. So truly talking to a lender is going to give you an idea of where you stand today. Now, here's the thing to remember. Just because you talk to a lender and you're qualified does not mean you need to purchase a home. All this says is that by the bank's standards, you meet the qualifications and you could purchase. Now you can decide for yourself, do you really want to move forward with a home purchase, or do you want to wait? Or in my opinion, the best thing to do is to monitor the market based on the data that you've been given. And now you can keep track of the market yourself to see if I need to be in a certain school district, or if I'm looking for a certain type of house, what is starting to happen as we go forward? Am I starting to see more price reductions? Am I starting to see more homes come on the market that fit my criteria? Because if that's the case, as a buyer, you hold all the cards. You hold all the negotiating power. You can get the seller to come down on their price. You can get the seller to pay for all of your closing costs. There's so many advantages to the market today versus what we've seen in the last 2 years. One of the things that you're going to regret waiting is if prices continue to go up. And you might say, well, Sean, that's not going to happen because we're going to head into a recession and things are going to go haywire. You might say that housing is going to crash because we're going into a recession. But look at this slide. You can see the Case-Shiller Housing Index continuing to rise throughout recessions over time. The darker shaded areas that you see on this slide here, that represents a recessionary time. And the only time that housing prices dropped was during the '08 crash. Why? Because of supply and demand. You have to remember, the only time we have a housing crash is because you have to have more supply than demand. Here in Las Vegas, we still do not have a ton of inventory on the market. But because interest rates have gone up, it's scared away the average buyer. So technically, even though it's a seller's market, it's a buyer's market because you have all the negotiating power. And you can see in this graph, what other time has housing ever lost during a recession? So if you think that you're betting on the recession to cause this crash, I think you're going to be mistakenly wrong. And this graph shows that. And while you're waiting for this crash to happen, or whenever you decide to wake up one day and know that, hey, I'm going to buy a house, you are continuing to pay rent. Rent is going up, as we've seen here in Las Vegas, and we do not have rent control. And I've told these horror stories of our clients that their rents have gone up $300,000, $500,000, $1,000 a month. Where are you going to live if your rent goes up $500 a month? You're going to have to downsize. You're going to have to find a place that maybe it's in a bad school district. Maybe it's in a bad neighborhood, simply because you can't afford the same lifestyle that you've had. So not knowing your budget and not being able to control your largest living expense, which is your housing payment, is going to hurt you. Now, let's say you're paying $2,000 a month in rent. You rent for another year. That's $24,000 you've literally thrown away to absolutely nothing. And the problem that most of us have is that we're not financially aware of the mistakes that we make every single day. For example, as we go into the holiday season, how many of you are going to be traveling to go and see family and spend times with friends and all that? There's nothing wrong with that. But you're either driving or you're flying, which means you're going to incur additional costs that you normally don't have in your budget, which means that could run you a few $100. Maybe you stay at a hotel, maybe you bum it on a couch, but that's another expense. Then you look at Christmas and New Year's. You're probably going to spend time with friends and family. You're probably going to buy gifts for your friends and family. That's going to rack up another potentially few $1,000s in gifts and travel. Then we go into the New Year's, and who doesn't love to party during New Year's? I know I was one of those guys. Every New Year, we'd be out on the strip partying, and guess what? Now you're spending more money. So you're literally causing yourself to be on this debt treadmill that continues to put you in a bad spot year after year after year. Then you get into the spring season, summer season, the weather gets better. Maybe for those of you that are in colder climate, you now want to go on vacation to the beach somewhere. You're racking up more debt. Next thing you know, you're going to be in October, November of 2023. You're still going to be renting and you haven't saved any more money and you're never going to get ahead. So if you decide to rent, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with that, but you need to have a very strict budget to get yourself out of that position. Because if you're just waking up and being all willy-nilly about it, a year can go by like this and you're still going to be renting. And then guess what? You're going to rent another year. So that $24,000 rent just turned into $50,000 that you just threw away. And I can almost guarantee that you for sure did not save $50,000 in the last 2 years. So how is that benefiting you by keeping yourself down while the opportunities are passing you by. And here in Las Vegas, we are seeing construction sites go up like crazy. They're building more hotels. They're building more casinos. They're building so many more things here in Las Vegas. Builders are buying land. People are relocating to Las Vegas. Even though you might think the market's going to crash, I think as the economy gets worse for the nation and the rest of the country, more and more people are going to be forced to look for ways to save money. And again, if your housing expense is your largest cost every single month, how do you get a cheaper house? You have to look other places in the country. So if you're living in California, you're moving here to Vegas. If you're in New York, Chicago, and some of these other higher cost of living cities, or maybe the crime is just getting too bad for you, I've had so many of you reach out to me from these states simply because you want to come to Vegas for the weather, no state income tax, and just a better overall life to live. These things are going to be a continuous draw to the rest of the country as we deal with this economy that we're in right now. So for you, if you live here in Vegas, and let's say you're not making a whole lot of money, the more people that relocate here to Vegas that are taking higher paying jobs, or maybe they're selling a house, they have more money, it's going to make owning a home for you that much more difficult. That's why you have to get on a game plan today. Get on a budget. Talk to a realtor. Talk to a lender. They're going to give you the right steps in order to get you into home ownership. Do not give up. Don't think that you've missed the boat. Don't think that it's impossible, because it's definitely not. I've helped so many clients over the years cross over into home ownership that didn't think that they could ever own a home. It is totally possible with the right plan, so don't give up. Now, as we have more development coming to Las Vegas and more people wanting to move here, let's just say interest rates drop one day, which we all know they will. Whether it's in 6 months, a year, 2 years, we know at some point interest rates are going to come down from 7% down to 5%, 4%, whatever that number is. And for those of you that are watching this, you're going to say, that's exactly what I'm waiting for. But here's my question to you. Do you remember what the real estate market was like in 2021? Shockingly, I've talked to a handful of you that had no idea. The market was insane. And I would strongly urge you to go Google this and look this up. People were buying houses that had 20, 30, 40 offers on a house. There were open houses that people were waiting down the block to get into the house. It was insane. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my 15-year career. But why is that important? It's important because if you wanted to buy a house, let's just say it was $400,000. You, as the buyer, had to be willing to go above the sales price of the house. So let's just say you had to come in with $20,000 or $30,000. Do you have an extra $20,000 or $30,000 laying around today? Probably not. So you would be completely out of the picture, and trying to get a home last year would have been damn near impossible. Also, you'd have to pay your own closing costs, which at a $400,000 price range might run you another $8,000 to $10,000. So let's add the fact that you had to go above the sales price, 20 or 30 grand, and then you had to cover your own closing costs, which is another $10,000. Do you have another $30,000 or $40,000 laying around? Probably not. So again, you trying to get into a house last year was going to be such a struggle. So you'd make an offer, get rejected. You make another one, get rejected. You'd have to make offer after offer after offer to try to get your offer accepted. And then you were just hoping and praying something got accepted so you could find a house. How discouraging is that, to know that you're spending an extra $40,000 just to get into a house that you're not even that happy with? And you can see in this article here that nearly 72% of homeowners have some sort of regret with their home purchase. So how would you like to move into your home thinking that this is going to be an amazing process to then move in and literally hate the fact that you bought a house? That's just ridiculous. But think about where the market is today. Like I've been saying, the sellers are willing to pay your closing costs. They're willing to come down on their sales price and literally give you whatever you want so that you can take the house off their hands. But the trade-off is you're getting a little higher interest rate than what was given out over the last couple of years. But guess what? Interest rates are going to come down. We can zoom out and look at the last 50 years. You can see how interest rates here have typically decreased and gone down during a recession. So if we are headed into a recession, or if we're in a recession, what does that mean? In the last 50 years, every single time rates have come down. So this is a temporary thing that we're dealing with right now. Don't let the 7%, don't let the 6% freak you out and deter you from buying, because all the signs show that this will turn around at some point. So the longer you wait, it's only going to cost you more money. You're paying more rent. and you're putting yourself into a position that might be even tougher to get out of when the market turns around. So if you don't know where to start, send me an email and I'd be happy to come up with a custom game plan so that way you can cross over the bridge and become a homeowner and stop paying someone else's mortgage. So let's do it, and I'll talk to you soon.